Hi, welcome back to Cambridge Inside Out. I'm Judy Nathans.
And I'm Robert Winters. So we've covered the eclipse in baseball.
Covered all the interesting non-political stuff.
Time to get into the sort of politics.
It is an election year.
It's an election year, but it's also August, and it's sort of like it's this little lull we have before things perk up, right?
Right.
I think some of us already saw some of the activity with candidates, I should say incumbents at city council meetings where political topics, everything's getting already a little politicized.
Yeah, you see like some of these issues.
Tensions are rising.
How many policies well, I guess the September 11th meeting will be interesting to see how many policy letters get issued.
It's sort of inevitable. I mean, they can kind of step up their game and just be good counselors from now until November. But the truth is that every single year I can remember, every topic, every meeting is an opportunity to shine and stretch yourself as a political candidate. So it's going to happen.
There's going to be a lot of forums. We'll show you a list of
we'll show you
you're
some
on.
candidate forums. We'll touch upon those here to be sure. But I just wanted to mention one thing right up at the top because I maintain these since 2003.
So 14 years, wow.
Right, it's like, I think it's my 8th election cycle, municipal election cycle, maintaining these candidate pages.
Very nice.
And the candidate pages, just so I want to be really clear about it, there's no endorsements, there's no...
Just what they provide you.
Just what they provide, candidates
or don't provide you.
Or don't provide, because sometimes they just don't bother replying. But for the most part, almost all candidates do provide
some basic
statements.
Or a link to their website or something.
Yeah, and I always think of it sort of like an introduction service. It actually grew out of once upon a time when I was a candidate. It occurred to me that there were the candidates who had a lot of money were mailing to a lot of households.
So they could get their message out
so
that way.
People would find out about candidates, and I said, that wasn't fair. So what can I do to level the playing field? And what I came up with was this idea of the candidate pages. The internet was starting to become...
Did you have the Civic Journal then?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah, so this is just a separate little hobby, really. But basically, the idea was that more and more people were having internet access. It was becoming routine.
Right.
So if you could put it out there, this way it was a way for any voter to find out for free. Candidates, it cost nothing.
Right.
Right.
You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to
subscribe.
Go to ourwinters.com.
And all it would be statements on various topic areas. Submitted by the candidates themselves, edited only for things like spelling and punctuation, right? I mean, I always reserve the possibility that if somebody writes something that's just outrageously false,
you can maybe ask them
shoot back and say, "Come on, you really seriously, right?"
Yeah.
But for the most part, I don't even go that. I just sort of let it ride. This is not about me; it's about the candidates, and
everyone uses it, which is nice.
Is actually there are thousands of people who will consult it, especially in the days leading up to the election. So it's actually kind of startling how true that is. But it is very much in contrast with what a lot of candidates are subjected to, which is basically, and I want to talk more about it today, getting pummeled by questionnaires from various interest groups and organizations who are either promising an endorsement or forming.
Do they all endorse? I guess they all do.
No.
Well, no, ABC's going to endorse this year.
I think they are, but if I'm not mistaken, I believe Green Cambridge, since you mentioned that, I don't know that they endorse, but the thing is
recommend.
They publish the responses from the candidates.
Well, that's true, and they rank them.
Environmentally themed. Questions, right? But they're very specific. To their credit, they stay on topic.
Right.
It's very much Green Cambridge is environment, climate, etc. Right. But there are other organizations like the Cambridge Residents Alliance, which
Did they send out questionnaires?
They sure as hell did. I have a copy here.
And do they have a website where they publish it?
They actually do publish it on their website along with their platform.
Okay, right? I haven't gone to their
There
website.
is a question, and actually some of the candidates have been contacting me about this, which is, and I'm inclined to actually ask some of the organizations to provide some information. I may do that in the next few days.
Like what they stand for, a general thing?
All right, so there's the group like A Better Cambridge, which we understand. They're smart growth advocates.
Transit-oriented housing, all that stuff.
They are sort of becoming kind of a modern-day civic entity.
Yeah.
Right? A little bit of general purpose, but still pretty much
they want you to join basically now,
It's a membership organization. There's also the Cambridge Residents Alliance, which has been around now for, I don't know what, 4 or 5.
Seems that way, yeah.
Something that year. So that may not be, it's not like the legacy of the Cambridge Civic Association, but they've been around for at least a few years.
Yeah.
And they ask a series of questions that are specific to their platform and their interests as well. So housing is a big part of their platform, but not exclusively. So they sent out questionnaires. I think, when I was a candidate years ago, I think a typical questionnaire you got was probably under 10 questions, and it was usually reasonably specific, right? I don't have the counts here for each of these ones here, but I think you could fit all the questions for the Residence Alliance on 2 pages. It's about 20-something questions, I think. Actually, I could tell you exactly, right? It comes up to 23.
What, 23 questions?
23. Some of them are just questions like, what's your name, right?
Okay.
But like 23. So, okay, that seems high, but honestly, it's not horrible. There's one from the Mass Voters for Animals.
What? Is that new?
Yeah, I think it's new, but they're basically dogs, dog runs, the ban on the sale of
happy
pets.
about that, I guess.
Right. So they're pretty narrow in their agenda. So their number of questions are consequently relatively small. There was 7, right? There was a Better Cambridge. I don't actually have the count here, but what I can say here is that all of the questions that ABC, a Better Cambridge, asked fits on. Maybe it's about 10, right? Okay. But then there are these new entities. And I don't even know.
How did you find out about all these?
People contact
grapevine,
me.
People. Okay,
I'm in on the grapevine, right?
All right.
So somebody's putting together. I think it seems to me like almost like a kind of a knockoff of candidate pages, asking some of the most pretty naive stuff. Like, what does Cambridge mean to you? And
you don't know who's sponsoring this?
I saw one name of somebody who I'd never heard of. But the thing is that the candidates, unless they do a little research, they actually don't know whether this is one person sitting in a bedroom with a computer claiming to be something,
then maybe they don't
or being an organization with 50 people.
Then why waste your time?
Well, because some of the candidates have a little bit of fear, unless they're that they don't know, right? Now the mother of them all, and maybe we'll go into this in more detail, is a group that didn't exist until this year.
Which is
it calls itself Our Revolution Cambridge, right? And it's pretty clearly a Bernie Sanders spin-off.
Were they the voting people? Were they the ones that wanted to get the ballot? No.
I think they're
maybe related.
I think there's some relations here, but nobody's divulging. In fact, when the candidates were sent this one here, no names signing the message to the candidates.
Makes no sense.
Indication who they are.
No, I'm sorry.
Now I know
this one and this one, I think, are
right.
Not
and here's the catch. Okay, so if a group like Our Revolution Cambridge, which I honestly had never heard about before, some of us suspect it's actually some people in Somerville who spawned it, because there is a group called Our Revolution Somerville.
So this is a group
right?
in Cambridge. But
so we don't even know if this is Cambridge-based. But the thing
really
is
long.
that
how many questions?
So they sent out a questionnaire to our poor assaulted candidates with 82 questions.
Oh, give me a break.
It's 82 questions, and some of them are perfectly reasonable questions. But basically, it's, I look at it and I say, this is like a setup. So if you write one thing as a candidate, and they've already decided that you're not one of the good guys, so you're not going to be on their slate of candidates anyway, then they're basically giving you 82 opportunities for them to say no.
The campaign contribution, that's the only answer for real estate developers.
It's actually. Wow. I mean, again, I'm not going to dispute some of these. Some of these are perfectly reasonable questions, right? But the thing is, you just don't hit every candidate with 82 questions, And in my opinion, I'm just going to say it straight out. These people already decided who they were going to bless before they even sent out the questionnaires. So the whole purpose of the questionnaires is just to be able to say, well, we're not giving our blessing to this person here because they gave a crappy answer in question 43.
So do they have a website?
They have a Facebook page, and they have some other entity. I forget what it's called, but you have to become a member before you
So
can
you
even
can't see any
subscribe
names
here. Yeah, I'm
associated
actually
with it?
inclined to send a message. I think actually there are at least one elected official is actually in cahoots on this one as well.
Gee.
So anyway, all right. So I'm just mentioning those things, and
All right.
there are others too. You know, this parade of questionnaires has not ended yet.
Yeah.
But I'm already hearing a lot of feedback. Some candidates actually submitted. I think for these revolutionaries here, they got 15 candidates. They say seeking their endorsement, but
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think they were necessarily seeking their endorsement so much as filling out the questionnaire.
Well, they don't want to get in their sight line. Well, I shouldn't use that expression, but you know what I mean.
There is this thing about candidate forums, and we'll talk about candidate forums
Well,
shortly
they're going to have
too.
to get one, because so far I haven't seen their name
But,
on a candidate forum.
Part of the dynamics of candidate forums is that
Yeah.
there's not that many people from the public typically who show up, unfortunately. I
Yeah.
really hope more do.
And we'll give you a list of
There are
those.
a lot of people
Yeah.
who are there are people associated with the candidates in the first place,
Right.
right? But the truth is, if you don't show up, word gets around that you're a don't show up kind of candidate.
Oh, you mean to show up to be...
So you
oh,
sort
yeah.
of have to show up,
Sure.
even if in fact you're not really getting much benefit from them, nor is the public.
Right.
Right? Though I hope that's not the case. I hope 1,000 people show up at some of these this year, but it's probably not going to happen. But you got to show up. So I think it's the same thing with some of these questionnaires. People say, well, if I don't send it in, am I going to get bad mouthed here? So 15 out of 26 city council candidates did send in responses.
Well, I imagine some of the questions are similar to some questions on other questions, so they do have some boilerplate there, right?
Actually, it's interesting because you can actually see that there must be some of the same people, because some of the questions with the residence lines were the same as the ones
Yeah,
here.
so...
I mean, some of it's just because they're the hot topics of the day, right?
Right.
But anyway, I think in this, I'm inclined to send a message out to the various organizations asking for information about the organizations in the
so that you
spirit
could
of
have...
transparency.
Well, also, that should be on your... If you have the candidates page, you could have the organizations pages.
I think you just basically say, who are these organizations?
Because people are going to want to know, they're endorsed by them? Who are they?
Yeah, in the old days when the Cambridge Civic Association endorsed candidates, people knew who the CCA was.
Right.
They've been around since 1945.
Right.
There wasn't a lot of debate about it, right? It was nothing mysterious, For all we know, some of these entities are being spawned by the candidates themselves, So
or their supporters.
Or their supporters, exactly, right?
So.
So anyway, it's a little bit unknown. So anyway, I just want to mention a little bit about the request I made today, because I do things a bit differently. So what I did is I sent out a message to my entire mailing list.
Which is how many
I also put
people
it
you
on the
have there?
CCJ forum. It's about $1,000.
Really?
500 something.
That's pretty good.
Right. Plus it's up on the regular CCJ website, and it's also up on the CCJ forum. And I'm already getting a nice bunch of responses about it. But unlike organizations where they decide in advance what the issues are, I'm basically putting the word out to people in Cambridge and say, what do you think the issues are?
Right.
And then I'll pass them along to the candidates.
Good.
And it's interesting because you see things just about quality of life that none of these organizations are asking about. So I think that's kind of interesting in itself. So I won't necessarily go through all of these ones here. Maybe I'll just sort of mention
let
here.
me see if I can enlarge this a little.
Yeah, so this is basically just a quick look here. What I did is I sent a message out and posted today a list of the topics, because all I ever do, I don't even ask questions. I give topic areas to give an opportunity for candidates to make statements as they see fit. Right? That's how we do it. Right? And yes, somebody pointed out to me that they are so largely like with the city council, they kind of align with things like city council committes or city departments.
Yeah.
And the answer is that's kind of right, because that's what you do when you're in the job. You can spout all you want about all sorts of other national things, but when you're actually in the job of city councilor, there are certain things that you have to address. Housing, economic development, energy, traffic and parking, etc. So I did put out the word today asking people if you have any suggestions how to amend this, we can do that. One person, I've actually got multiple people want a topic in there specifically about climate change. All right? All right, so I'll probably do that. So in other words, instead of having energy, the environment, and public
Separate
health,
out
I'll
a little
split
more.
it out.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm serious. I want people's suggestions on
Yeah.
these, and that's what this is about. So hopefully I'll get some suggestions in the next few days, and then I will send out a message to all of the candidates saying, send me material, and we'll just put it right into your own candidate pages. No gotcha questions, just it's an opportunity.
So-
it's an opportunity to just
Some of these
Provide the
questions might be
information.
the same for 2017, right? Because
right. Some of them are pretty they just
Yeah.
work, and there's
top
no real need to change
priorities, you
them.
want to know what that is.
Yeah,
for
so
most
things
people.
about
Yeah.
zoning. Now,
Zoning's
sometimes
going to be big, yeah.
do we want to be more specific? Do we want to put in specifically about what do you think should happen at the Volpe site? Or, but
Well-
the thing is that the candidates have an opportunity to do that under land use, planning, zoning, in any way they want. And I also tell them, if there's any other topics that you want to write about, like charter change or whatever, just put it in there, there's no limitations on length. And furthermore, candidates can change what they have on their candidate pages all the way up to election day, within reason. I mean, obviously, I have to actually do some edits every time they
Right.
send me stuff. But to whatever degree I can keep up with it, I'll keep up with it. It's that simple. And again, I don't want to always be relegating the school committee to a backwater,
Right.
because that
So
often...
have you gotten any responses about school committee?
I got some today, yes.
Okay.
Actually, I got one from one of the candidates, and that's actually perfectly
good.
valid.
Yeah.
Sometimes the candidates know exactly the right questions because people have been asking them, right? So anyway, so that's something that's going on here right now.
Yeah.
We're assembling the candidate pages. I think we have some of the statements that are held over from 2 years ago. At some point, I'll wipe those out and just put links to the 2015 pages. There already
17
are.
pages.
No, to the 2015 ones,
Oh.
and I'll replace and put the fresh stuff.
Oh, I
for
see what
this
you're
year.
saying, yeah.
Right. I mean, right now it seemed perfectly reasonable to leave the old
Yeah.
stuff up, because honestly, candidates' positions don't usually change all that dramatically, nor do
Right.
the issues. Though there
Right.
are new issues that crop
Right.
up, and we'll hopefully try and freshen things up so it'll be good about this. But
Right.
again, this is not about endorsements. This is all about
Right.
just information for voters. Period.
Mm-hmm.
It's as simple as that.
Good.
And we did mention about candidate forums, so we might as well
Yeah.
sort of show here. So let's see, we got
I
this.
see one that I think popped in recently, because
Yeah,
I've written them all down.
So linked off the candidate pages is also a calendar. Now we'll just show it to you here. But basically what I've been doing here, this is actually about the maybe third, or I think it's at least the third election running for the municipal elections, where there used to be a problem where you'd end up with multiple events happening on the same day. And it was a clash, unavoidable conflicts, right? So what I did is I started very early on putting together a calendar where I said to people, when you're scheduling, just claim a date and we'll put it on the calendar. And this way,
People can check.
when another organization is coming along and wants to schedule something, they'll see that, well, like on September 13th, the Ward 6 Democrats are having a school committee forum. So maybe we shouldn't have a school committee forum that day, right? There's still a lot of available dates for people. Of course, there are other things happening, city council meetings, school committee meetings, that you don't want to conflict with those either.
Yeah, I see two things that conflict, that's the only one.
Yeah, the only one is there is something
October
scheduled for
10th.
October 10th, where there's
A
actually a
roundtable.
roundtable meeting, but I think that they're trying to work around
Oh,
that.
really? Okay.
Yeah, I think this is for this concerned clergy group.
Yeah, which
They
is.
may just move I'm hoping they'll do it where they'll move the candidates through in different panels, so that so that they.
That's true, because you're going to want candidates there, and if they're at this, I didn't
Right.
think of that. I was thinking of it as a
Yeah,
participant
so if there's an
myself.
incumbent that has to
Sure.
be at the
Yeah.
forum, they can do early and go.
Because usually that's going to be at the school.
Yeah.
Although maybe they'll have it at the at City Hall, so it'd be closer to get to this.
Right.
Yeah.
Now scroll down just a little bit here.
Oh, is there more in October? I thought.
No. Just
Oh.
but just to sort of understand where things head. October is where it's sort of like it's prime time for a lot of these.
Really?
The thing is that, and just so people are aware, you don't want to probably schedule anything like 3 days before the election, which is
Yeah.
in early November, right? That's also on the calendar, the election dates, right? But the thing is that candidates still have to run their campaigns, and you don't want to you want to be courteous to the candidates and not have your candidate forum basically smack dab in the middle when they have to be doing some serious door knocking and some mailings.
The last form is
and other
really
things.
October 24th.
Is that right? Yeah.
Well, that's so far.
Yeah, and that's probably about
Yeah.
right. I think
Yeah.
because I don't think you really want to be scheduling these in the
There's
first
2
week
in a
of
row
November.
in October, and there's also there's a lot here in
Yeah.
September.
Yeah, but sometimes there'll be city councils, and then there's school committee ones, and
I don't
so
see
they're
any
not
school
necessarily.
committee right
There'll
now.
be some other. I know there's some other organizations that will schedule some for school committee,
All right.
right? But so anyway, so that's another thing that's sort of coming.
You can find that on the candidates page under events.
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
actually linked in multiple places, you know. And I actually have also put in links in there, so if you're interested in seeing questions about campaign finance.
Oh, that's an
so-
interesting one.
Yeah, so for
can
example,
sort
if you
it.
want to see, it's sortable tables, you can say,
Yeah.
okay, who's raised the most money,
Yeah.
who's spending the most money.
Is it coming from?
Or
Where's
if
it? Yeah.
If it's a criteria for you, who's spending too much money on a municipal campaign. You know, you might wish to infer who's running a serious campaign based on whether they're raising and spending money at all.
Just using their own money. And,
I mean, I hate to say it, but if you're not raising or spending any money, chances are you're not running a particularly significant campaign,
yeah.
right? So you can get a hint as to who's being
Right.
significant about it, right? So I have one page linked in there for showing all the bank reports. I also have one just shows the receipts, Cambridge percentage of receipts, as well as expenditures. And actually, I'm just going to, again, not to...
Which, you know, I mean, you could look at that different ways. I mean,
Yeah, you can do it
a
different
lot
ways.
of well-meaning Cambridge people supported
Yeah.
that guy in Georgia.
That's
That's
right.
why he raised $8 million.
No,
I mean, he
no,
didn't
and-
win, but
You know, and it's
Yeah.
an inescapable truth is
Yeah.
that Cambridge is becoming very, very expensive to live in.
yes.
So you may have
Yeah.
supporters and friends who...
And if you're not
who-
originally
who-
from the area, you have family and
Yeah, but
relatives. And,
that's right. You know, and I've known some candidates who
Mhm.
came from other states and their family are big supporters, so there's some money coming from out of state. So it's not meant to be definitive. But the thing
No.
is that it's a measure.
It's another
that's
measure.
a little bit
Right.
interesting, as I like to point out.
Mhm.
You know, if only 20% of your funds are coming from Cambridge,
It just shows some of your
or
links to your
80%, then-
community in a way.
yeah,
too.
you can maybe make some conclusions
Mhm.
based on that, right? You know, so anyway, so we've got tables linked off of that, you know, off the candidate pages now, so you can do that. There's actually also, I'll probably update it before all is said and done, but there's a little bit of a brochure that the city put out about how to vote in a proportional representation election.
Is that in here? No.
It's linked off the candidate pages.
Have they done before? Or is it a new one?
They're actually updating some of
Oh,
it for this
okay.
year, and there will be a mailing that will go out to
good.
every household, I believe, in the city.
Cool.
Basically informing people, giving the candidate list. There'll be links even to the candidate pages and a few other sites where you can find out about
Good.
candidates.
That's a new
That's
thing.
a new
then.
thing.
Good.
As well as, my personal preference is that if you want to be linked to an official city one, then you should be linking to something which does not have personal opinion in it,
Right.
right? So candidate pages, it's just the candidates.
Right.
And I would hope that any other entity,
Yeah.
newspaper, whatever, would actually have the good grace to actually separate out
Yeah.
the candidate information from the editorial comment,
Ah.
right? Nobody wants to say you can't have editorial comment,
Right. But it just has to be clear what's
keep
going
it
on. Yeah.
at least somewhat
Mhm.
separate. I
Yeah.
think that would be best practice. Otherwise, you know, it's like the city saying, "Oh yeah, go check it out and find out what a schmuck this candidate
Yeah.
is," right?
No.
That's no good.
Now, is that coming out of a general budget or election commission or what?
Yeah, it's part of the election commission
Okay.
budget. Yeah, so they're gonna, I
Good
think,
idea.
update some of the information about how to vote in a PR election. I've tried to put in, I have some graphics in there as well. I will
I
probably
should have a link
update it
to
a
a
little bit
video
more.
in there if they could do it.
You know, there have been a bunch of people who've been asking me to produce
I
such
know,
a
we
video.
keep talking about it, but there's none that exists now.
There are
PR.
some, but they're not
Oh, actually,
perfect
Jan, you
matches.
saw Jan do.
Right, there's actually a great one about promoting proportional representation by John Cleese.
Oh,
Monty
wow.
Python, but that was in the
That wouldn't be
situation where
appropriate in a
they were
brochure.
promoting proportional representation. It's a different system, right? Honestly,
Exactly,
in England,
in England.
right? So there are some entertaining bits, you know, but we need to do a little bit better. If anybody has the skills, come talk, you know.
We're sitting here in a cable studio telling people, so I think they're gonna look at you
Well,
and
you
say,
know, hey,
"Hey,
listen,
you're sitting
anybody
there."
here in this building here, give
Yeah.
me a hand. We'll do that, you know.
Gotta be
um,
an animator.
Right. Actually, there's one other thing. We're kind of winding down here, but it just occurred to me. There was one of the questions. I think it's on the Residents Alliance just part of my issue with some of these questionnaires, matter-of-factly declaring that 40% of all campaign contributions in the 2015 election came from real estate developers.
And?
It's false. It's so false as to be comical.
Wow.
The actual number is probably closer to about 15%, which is, maybe that's a big number,
So
you might think. But
what are they basing it on?
there's one particular person who basically has decided that, that if you're an architect, you're a developer. If you knew anybody who was a developer, you're a developer.
So they're looking at almost the profession of the person donating the money?
So there's just this absolutely fallacious, and then the candidates are supposed to respond to a question that says, 40% of all money for campaigns came from developers. Do you intend to take money from developers?
Yeah, I saw that.
And I said, give me a break.
Well, they might as well say from property owners versus
Well, but the truth is that I think just as not that there's necessarily anything wrong with getting money from somebody who owns some property in the city, but candidates are this year they're kind of acting defensively, so they're choosing not to take that money, which maybe that's okay, but they're doing it because they just don't want to have to get smeared.
Right.
We're a little worried, quite honestly, that between now and November 7th, there's going to be just a lot of smearing going on, and I really hope
let's see what happens at the forums, because usually
the
stuff
forums
comes
tend to
out
be,
there.
Forums,
Some of them can be more contentious than others.
Possibly, but for the
not
most
the
part,
ones where they move around, but
right. I'm a big fan of the one that the Mid-Cambridge Neighborhood Association does, where they have about 6 topics at individual tables, and then the audience moves around to the tables.
That's the one that's the most, I think, but the ones where the audience can ask,
But if you're going to try and parade 26 candidates up across there to answer the same question, boy, is that boring.
Well, the Ward 6 is doing it in 2 different shifts. Right?
Right. So you do it in panels, right? But ultimately, they often feel obliged to ask the same question.
True. Yeah.
So.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's going to get interesting before it gets over.
We will be here next week.
We'll be back next week with Cambridge Inside.
All right. Bye.